Hello everybody, my name is Emiliano and today I'm going to expose about the digestive system and gastritis. To start this presentation, I want you to know what's digestion. And for this, we have to know that digestion is divided into two types, or divisions, the mechanical digestion and the chemical digestion. In the mechanical digestion, we can find out all the processes that are carried out from the point in which the food enters your mouth until it leaves. But this only involves the transport, the grounding, and also the mixing of the food. And in the other hand, we have the chemical digestion that involves all the process from which the food is decomposed into smaller pieces that the cells themselves can absorb by chemical reactions, by the mixing of the food with enzymes or the hydrochloric acid and the pancreatic acid. Now that you know all the different kinds of digestion, let's analyze it step by step. So, this process begins in the mouth. When you introduce food into it, then it mixes with saliva, and saliva is produced by salivary glands. But the main purposes of this action is to first lubricate the food by the glycoproteins saliva contain. Then it has a bactericide function, and this because saliva contains lysosomes, and the lysosomes are capable for breaking down the plasma membrane of bacteria, then killing them. And finally, but not less important, we have the enzymatic function, and this because while chewing, saliva mixes with food, and as saliva contains amylase, that is an enzyme capable of hydrolyzing starch, the carbohydrate digestion begins. And therefore, after this process, the first step of chewing the food, and we have that food becomes into bolus. After this process, the tongue pulls down the bolus into the pharynx for being swallowed and also through the esophagus. And this process is possible due to peristalsis, because peristalsis is kind of a series of contractions that enable the food for passing through the different levels of the digestive system. And without peristalsis, then the food will not pass to that. And also, there is a very, very, very tiny but important muscle that prevents the bolus from going down through the respiratory tract, and it's called the epiglottis. Where the bolus is swallowed through the esophagus, then it enters into the stomach. But before entering to it, there's a tiny but very important muscle that prevents all the gastric juices and all the substances contained inside it from going up again. And this is called the sphincter. So when the bolus enters into the stomach, it mixes with the gastric juices. And from now on, we're gonna call it chyme instead of bolus. And also here is where the digestion of proteins begins. Then the chyme passes to the small intestine, but before it does that, there is a small muscle that is called pylorus, and that led to the entrance into from the chyme to the small intestine. So when the chyme enters to the small intestine, it is also called duodenum, the first part of the small intestine. There occurs a mixture between the pancreatic juices that contains many substances, but many, that can hydrolyze many things such as lipids with fats, and it's produced by the pancreas. And then it also mixes with bile that is produced by the liver and storage by the gallbladder, that is kind of a container that the liver uses to store the bile. And finally, when this both the violet and the pancreatic juices connect to the duodenum through one conduct, because at some point both conducts of the pancreatic juices and the bile join, so they both enter into the small intestine. And when they both are mixed there with the chyme, there also occurs a mixture between the chyme and the enzymes that are contained in the small intestine. And it's here where the chyme stops being chyme and now it's chyle. After passing through the duodenum, the chyle continues its journey through the other parts of the small intestine, which now are the duodenum and the ileum. Here, the absorption process continue, passing from the lumen to the ciliferous vessels that are kind of like the lymphatic vessels of the small intestine. And for this, we have to recall that the nutrients such as the amino acids, the fatty acids, and glucose pass together with the water, mineral salts, and vitamins from the intestine to the blood vessels. And here, the most important, I think, the most important part here are the villi, because there are like finger-like structure that are the responsibles for absorption in the small intestine. After the cow passes all the 7 meters of the small intestine, then it enters into the large intestine. And here is where it became dehydrated due to the mucus the large intestine start producing. And it's also where the greatest amount of water and nutrients are absorbed due also to the ability that the large intestine contains. And finally, we have reached the last step of digestion. And here, after the cow has been transformed to fecal bolus due to the large intestine, now it uses the rectum as an storage for waiting until its ejection through the anus. And this ejection through the anus is the last step of digestion. So in this presentation, I'm going to talk about one of the most common digestive diseases. And yeah, it's gastritis. Well, gastritis is the name that doctors give to the inflammation of lining inside the stomach. And you may be wondering what's lining. Well, lining is like the mucosa that protects your stomach for being damaged because of the very powerful gastric juices. And this disease may be due to injuries, weaknesses, and even due to chronic disorders as Crohn's disease or sarcoidosis. And there typically exist two types, the acute one and the chronic one. And the importance of treating them is that if you let them, then it will lead finally to gastric ulcers, and even it can increase the risk for having cancer, stomach cancer. So you may treat it if you have it. Finally, here are the references I used for doing this activity, and thank you for watching my video.